Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we'll start the Sotah daf Mem Tes, which happens to be the last daf in this Masechta. We are going to begin on the bottom of Mem Chesam Beis Uposk Anshi Amana. So it said in our Mishnah that when it came time to the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, so one of the things that was batal, in addition to the Shamir worm and Naifas Sufim, which he said 3 pshatim, is the Anshi Amana, people in Israel who had faith. So on this the Gemara says, Rabbi Yitzchak El b'nei Adam shehein ma'aminim b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They had Amunah in Hashem. The Sanya Rabbi Lezer Gadol Omer Kol Mishesh Shlo Pas B'Tzalon. Anyone who literally has bread in their basket, the Omer Ma Oichel Mach, what am I going to eat tomorrow? Enu Ella Mikatni Amana. If you have food today, so you should be satisfied, and you shouldn't worry about that you're not going to have food tomorrow. If you do, you're mikatni amana. Behind the Omer Rebbe Lezer, this is what he means when he interprets the pasuk. Ma'idach siv, ki mi baz liyoim katanois, one who is degraded on this day of small. So migar musadikim she's baz beis shulchan lasad, who is going to potentially be degraded of their shulchan in the future. Katnus shahay behen shul hamid b'Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Those people who did not have amun on Hashem, says Rashi, shein mekabel sachar shalom, they're not going to get complete reward. Ha'achim ashma ki mi baz liyom haba es tzadikim. So again, the fact that they were katna amana, so they don't get the full sachar will asad lavoy. Rabbi Omer elu katane b'nei rishe Yisrael, says Rashi. Shemeisu kashim katanim. These are people who die at a young age, as we continue on Mem Testament Aleph. Why? Shemevazvizin din avihem l'osid lavoy avihem. Says Rashi, Kairim din avihem, their din of their fathers were ripped up. Kishiboyim ladunam, when they come to be judged, Amrim Mufanav v'chul, they say the following. Amrim Mufanav Rebbeinu Shalom Acher She'ata Asid V'Yiparim Mehem, in the future you will be paying back from them. Lama Hikesa Shineihem Bom, why did you torture them with the pain of our death? Says Rashi, Lama Hivaltim Saratim Aleinu B'Moiseinu B'Nifrahem B'Chayim. Amar Rabbi Labar Yevrachya Il Moli Tfilaso Shel David. If it wasn't for the tefillah of David HaMelech, Hayukol Yisrael Mordechai Ravav, then all of the Klal Yisrael would be selling Ravav. What is that? Says Rashi, it's a davar muas. It's something repulsive. Could go in chaylev, shuman, fats. V'nidbak b'begadim, it gets attached to your garments. V'nimasin, v'einocha adam is asik b'hen el ani. The only people who are misasik in them are poor people. So for David HaMelech, if it wasn't for David HaMelech's tefillah, that's what we'd be doing. Shenemar, as it says in Tehillim, Shisa Hashem Mora Mehem, Mora Lehem, to have mastery over them. And on this, Rashi says, well, El Minekse, before that it says, Kilo, when Netzach Yishachach Evyoin Tikvas Anovim, Toivad Ad Shisa Hashem Mora Lehem, Tein Lehem Morus, Loisa Niyam Oisher. To those people who are poor, give them wealth. Shihagoyim nohagim mehem kavod, so that they should be given honor. Yedu hagoyim shehein enoish ve'enim elohus she'ein kol hakavod v'gedula shalahem. So basically, David HaMelech was mispalel that we shouldn't be impoverished. The Rabbi Yehuda bar Nivarachia Moli Tfilaso Shel Chavakuk. If it wasn't for the tefillah of Chavakuk, Hayubeis Talmidei Chachamim miskasin b'talas achas. You would have 2 Talmidei Chachamim, because they were so poor, they would need to share the same garment. But Oiskim b'Torah, to learn. Shenemar Hashem Shemati Shemacha, Hashem, I listened to your words. Yureisi Hashem, afraid of Hashem. Pa'olcha b'kerev shanim chayehu. Al tikru b'kerev shanim ela b'kerev shnayim. They're being close to two people. In other words, among the 2 people. Says Rashi, the work, namely learning Torah, shehi b'kiruv shnayim, with the 2 people close to each other, sheshnayim srichen l'skarv yachad b'kisa yachad, because 2 people are going to need to be in the same, use the same garment, because they're so poor. Rabbi Labar Yevrachia, again, this is the same person. Shnei Talmid Chachamim halchin b'derech. If you have two Talmid Chachamim that are traveling on the same road, ve'ein b'neihem divrei Torah, they don't say Torah, it's also more tinus. Ruin lisar peish, they should be burned with fire. Shenemar, v'hi heima hoyachin halich v'daber v'hini rechav eish v'gaimer. So it says that everything is okay because they were speaking to one another. So Tamid Ika Dibor, only because they were speaking, Mashma Haleka Dibor, Ruin Lasarf, then in fact it would be fit that they would be burned. So if you have these two people, two Talmid Chachamim that live in the same city, but they don't engage each other in halacha, so there's a punishment. This is actually going to be question TA 29. So we'll see. One of them will die, and one of them is going to go to Gola, says Rashi. Echad meis. Echad meis. Al yidei chavero shehargu b'shayg v'zeh Gola ari miklat. So one is going to kill the other, so one is going to be dead, and the other one's going to have to go to city of refuge because of it. Okay, the Echad goes. Shnamar, as it says, Lanu Shomer Retzayach Asher Yitzach Asri Ehu. Bevli Das, that the person has to run to the Ir Miklat because he killed someone without knowledge. Vein Das al Torah. The fact that it was Bli Das means that there was no Torah among them. The fact that they should have been learning with one another, so therefore that's what caused him to die. Shnamar Nidmu Ami, that my nation was silent or mute. Mibli hadas. And Rashi says this, end of the pasuk is of Tishkach Torahs Elokecha. You forgot Torah. So being silent is a way of forgetting Torah. So therefore, when it says in by the Ari Miklat, Bivli Das, we make the drushes talking about not learning Torah or halachas together. Rabbi Yehuda Beredo Avchia Shnei Kol Talmid Chacham Ha'isik B'Torah Mitochad Chak. Any Talmid Chacham who learns, even though it's with great difficulty, tefillah nishmas, their tefillahs will be answered. Shnemar ki am b'tzion yeshiv Yerushalayim, that the nation of Tzion, they're sitting and dwelling in Yerushalayim. B'chol loy tivche, crying they won't cry. Chanin yachnacha l'koil zakecha, they'll be gracious to you by the voice of your screams. Kishema'ato anoch, when I hear your afflictions. Afterwards it says, V'nostan Hashem lechem lechem tsar. Hashem gives a little bread, umayim lachatz. So we look in Rashi. Rashi says, Ki am b'tzion yeshev, elu yoshi yeshivas Torah. This is referring to people who are learning Torah. V'sev dekra chanun yechancha l'kol zakecha. That Hashem will hear their cries. So even though it's with great difficulty, lechem tsar, b'mish hakas medaber, b'mishim azonas of kashin alav. It's someone who doesn't have a lot of food. Nonetheless, even so, he still decides to learn Torah. So therefore, because of Hashem is going to listen to their tefillos. They'll be satiated from the ziv of the shechina. That your eyes will see your master. The pargud, the mechitza, this wall that's separating you from Hashem will not separate you. Shnemer li kanef oid marecha. Li kanef, Rashi says, lo yiskasim imcha beknaf bigdai mechitzas. You're not going to be covered up by a garment. So the Mishnah said, also from the time of the Churban Abayis, says the Mishnah, Ein yoim she'ein bo klola, there's no day without a curse. V'lo yored hatal avracha, dew doesn't come with blessing. Benitol tam haperos, the fruit, the taste of fruit is not the same. Rav Yossi says avnitel shuman haperos, the fattiness from fruits are taken away. And Rav Shimon Eliezer oimer hatahara natla es hareach hamaisrus, tam es hareach hamaisrus. So it took away from the taste of the food because of lack of purity. Natlas hashuman hadagim v'chachamim oimrim haznus v'hakshafim kiu asakoil. There's nus and witchcraft is what basically wiped everything out. Okay. Amarava b'chol yom v'yoyim maruba kalasoi. Every single day, curses get even worse. Mishel Chavera from the day before. Shenemar b'boiker tamer mitin erev. In the morning you say, I wish it was the evening. Erev tamer mitin boiker. You say, I wish it was the morning, because each day keeps getting worse. So, hi boiker, what morning are we talking about? Ilema boiker l'machar, in the morrow, miyada mai havi. We don't know what it is. El the cholef means from before. So every day gets worse than the next. Today was worse than yesterday, and tomorrow's going to be worse than today. The El Alma Amai Komakayim. So how can the world be existing? After there's all these kololos constantly and so huge, how does the world endure? So the Gemara says, and this is going to be TB 30, on how does the world endure? Akadusha de Sidra Vayahe Shmei Rabba de Agadata. So during these two times, Shenemer Eretz a fossa kamoy oifel tzalmaves vlo sedarim hayesh sedarim toifia mi oifel. So if there is sedarim, if there's learning Torah, then darkness, it will come out. We can come out of the darkness. So one of these two times, one is a kedusha de sidra, which is seder kedusha, specifically in uvalat siyain. There's the importance of that. Shul tiknua. It was only established El Shehu Kol Yisrael Oiskim Torah B'Chol Yoyim Davar Mu'at, so that everyone should have a little bit of Torah. She'omer Kriyaso, that we read it, V'Targumoi, and also its translation. V'Hein K'Oiskim Torah. Uvalot Sion takes upon itself like you're learning Torah. V'Kivan Shenoig B'Chol Yisrael B'Talmidim. Uvalmi Aretz, everyone's learning it, everyone's doing it together, whether you're a Talmud Chacham or Am Aretz. Yesh kan shtayim, there's two elements, Kedusha Hashem, because you say Kedusha, and also the Talmud Torah Chavivhu. And also it mentions Talmud Torah, therefore it's something which is Chaviv. V'chein, so too, Heshmi Rabba Mevarach, when you say Heshmi Rabba Mevarach, She'onet Achar Haggadah. After you learn Torah, Shahadarshan Dairesh Barabim, the whole Shabbos, they give a long speech. Haynu Hagim Kach, that's what you would do. You say a Kadosh Rabbanon afterwards. Visham Hayu Nikbatsim Kol Am, everyone gathered together. V'Shmoya to hear Levishenu Yom Shel Malacha, there's no work. V'Yesh Kan Torah V'Kiddush Hashem. So therefore, these are the two times in which is able to remove any klala. So that the element of Torah can remove any klala, any curse from a person. Okay. So these things were taken out. The taste of the fruits, says Rashi, haperos v'reicham, the fruits and the smell, shemetoy shahayu tahoyrim, v'nohagim b'tahara, avakadosh baruch hu b'tar perosehin merech ra b'tam ra. Tanya Reb Shimon Melezer Omer, tahara batla, tam v'reich. In other words, the fact that tahara was removed from Klal Yisrael, that's why it was removed, this ruach from the smell, the spirituality, if you will, of the fruit. Meiser bitel shuman dagon, says Rashi, ba'avon pisak meisers. The fact that we stopped giving meiser, pasak shuman hadagon, the fattiness of the grains, kishmoy shel Meiser to Ikrave Chalev Kedexib Kol Chalev Yitzar, so the goodness of the grains was also removed. Rav Huna Ashkach to Ramta Dechinu Niso, he found this fatty date. Says Rashi, Shmeina V'yeshma Reach Taiv Umin Tamarim Hul Atzman, so Shakla Karcha Besudre, so he took it and he put it in a handkerchief. Also, Rabbi Berei, Armalei, Morechina Reicha, Dechinu Nisa. You should smell the smell of this fatty date. Armalei, Benit, Tahari Yesh B'cha. It has purity, says Rashi Lafikach, Merecha L'cha, V'lo Batal Harech Ma'atzlacha. Since you are pure, so therefore the fragrance of this fruit also remains. Yahava Nihalei. So he said, like, give it to me. In the meanwhile, also Abba Berei, Shakla, he took it, Yoav Nihil, and he gave it to him. Amali B'ni, Samachta es libi, you've made my heart happy. V'hikesa es shinai, but you've blunted my teeth. Why? Says Rashi, so Samachta es libi, b'tarasecha, the fact that you're pure, but you blunted my teeth. Says Rashi, Sheresani she'ahavoscha al bincha yoiser mi'olai, she'natalta mimeni v'nosataloi, that I see that you have a love on your children more than me, that you took it from me and gave it to him. Hainu de Amri Inshi, that's how some people say, Rachme de Abba Abnei, Rachme de Bnei Abnei de Havile, that the love of a father is to the son, because his son gave the date then to his own son, the grandson. A father's love is to his son. Then this son gives his own son, and he doesn't go back to the father. Because the Rachmi de B'nei, Avnei de Havile. Rav Acha bar Yaakov itpol be Rav Yaakov bar Te. So he was living in his house. Rashi says he was Gidlo bebeisai. So he was living in his house. Ki gadol itbole Rav Yaakov bar Te. Ki gadol, when he grew up, Amrulei, the grandfather said, Ashkin Maya, to provide some water. So Amrulo, so he said to him, Lav barichana, I am not your son. Behind Amri Inshi, Rabbi bar Bartach ana. Says Rashi, Gadol oisi, I've grown up by you, V'afal pikein eni bincha, but I'm still not your son. Bar baratach ana, ve'eno lai l'chabdecha keben. Therefore, I don't honor you like a son, because a relationship of a grandparent is not the same as the closest to a parent. Okay. Says next, the last mission of this Masech, the Masnisan. Pulmus shel as paisonos, regarding this army general who came to Yerushalayim, Gazru al Atarus Chasonim. When they came around, as the Gemara is going to explain, we stopped doing these special crowns for the Chason, Vial Ha'irus, as well as Irus. Again, that we'll explain what that is. But Pulmus shel Titus, we know, destroyed the second base of Mikdash among the Romans. Gazru al Ataros Kalois. We even answered against the women to wear this thing. Says Rashi, but Pulmus shel Tita shehevi horkinus aristoiblus achiv uben zelazeh hayu chamishim ushtayim shana. Between these two guys, it was 52 years. Okay. So that was one thing. Ushlo yilmad adamas b'nai Yavanis. When Titus came around, we said we're not teaching Yavanis anymore, any Greek. We'll see what that means. But Pulmus ha'charoin, when it came to the last general, says Rashi, Hu shel Chorban Habayis, shel Titus Nami Havi, he was there also. Gozu shel Teitze Hakala ba'apiryoin b'toicha'ir. We don't have her go in a chariot throughout the entire city, which is what we used to do, which was a nice ceremony for a woman who got married. Fine. So we stopped doing that. Then he actually said, no, we still are allowing the chariots to go within the city. We'll see exactly what this whole machlokas is. Rabbi used to give great parables, for example, about foxes and the like. So once he died, we didn't have anyone who was able to give the same level of Mesholim. Mishemes ben Azai, Batlo Hashkodim, it was Mavatal, those people who were engaged diligently in learning Torah, says Rashi, Shakdonim, Shaitin al Dalasois Beis HaMedrash, Lail V'yom. That basically they were diligent, learning Torah day and night, as it's brought them that the Shavamas of Ama Esa Shenafshi Choshka B'Torah, that he was a person who didn't get married, or maybe he did, but didn't end up remaining married. Anyway, he was so diligent in learning Torah. Mishemes ben Zoima, Batlu ha-darshanim. The darshanim stopped. He was an expert in, as Rashi says, in the Tami Mikrois, in the meaning of all the different psukim, etc. Like we find famously on Pesach night, that Ben Zoma says, so he was a darshan. So Rabbi Kiva increased kavod Torah, and therefore when he died, that was over. What did he do? So he darshan, says Rashi, kol kites v'kites, shel kol ois. He darshan every crown on every letter, and also certainly any extra words. Says Rashi, v'zehu kavod Torah gadol she'en bo davar levatala. This is the greatness of showing kavod Torah, that there's a reason for everything. We know he had great miracles. Batul anshi maisa. The miraculous acts stopped. As Gemara in Tainus brings down, Lamati kishurech yermol chaimetz v'yidloik lo'izim l'havi ze'evim v'karnehem. All these famous stories. Let the when it came to, for example, that the vinegar should be able to burn, his daughter was upset. They'll burn on Shabbos. The vinegar burned, or he was watching over these goats, and foxes came on their horns. There's a bunch of miracles that happened by Yochanan ben Daisa. We also know that he put his foot by a hole when there was an orud, some type of a beast that was killing people. So great miracles happened with him. Mishemes, in fact, the Gemara in Brachos also says Rav Chanina, because there's two nuns. Numerous miracles will happen to you if you see this b'chaloim, if you see his name in a chalom. Mishemes Rav Yosi, when Rav Yosi died, which he was among the greatest, we usually pass like him, katainta posku chasidim. When Rav Yosi katainta posku chasidim, so actually that's his name, and V'lomenikra Shmo Katonta. Why was he called the small one? Shai Kataita Shel Chasidim. He was actually the smallest of all the Chasidim, but that's still obviously a great title. Mishemesh Yochanan ben Zakkai, the great Yochanan ben Zakkai, who basically saved all of Klal Yisrael. Batal Ziv HaChachma, the beauty of wisdom, ended. And Rashi says, Zel lo yadana maihi. I don't really know why. But Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai certainly was, with his relationship with Vespasian, he had it was a great way that he saved Klal Yisrael. Mishemesh Rabbi Gamliel Hazakin batal kavod Torah. When Rabbi Gamliel Hazakin died, kavod Torah ended. Why? So this is a famous Gemara in Masechtas Megillah, as Rashi quotes, Amar she'ad shemeis hu haya briois ba'olam. People were stronger. People actually learned Torah standing. When he died, so it was a great level of kavod Torah that they would only learn Torah standing. So batal kavod Torah, umesa tahara precious, and it died purity and precious. Mishemesh Rabbi Yoshua ben Pavi batul ziva kahuna. When he died, the glory and the beauty of kahuna died. He was a chacham. Rashi says he was an osher, a kohen. The kohanim rabim oichlin al shulchan. A lot of people ate by his table. Mishemesh Rabbi, when the great Rabbi Yehuda Nasi Rabbi died, batul anava v'yaschet. The high level of humility and fear of sin was gone. And possibly we have here the Gemara. Tanobana. But Pinchas ben Yair, Omer b'shachar beis hamikdash, boshu chaverim. There was embarrassment among friends. Uvnei chayrin, v'chafu roisham. Their heads were covered. V'nidaldalu anshi maisa, and the people of anshi maisa. Again, these miracles were downgraded. V'gavru bali soraya. The people who had strong hands, they were more powerful. Ubali lashain, the ein darish in mavakish in shayil. There was no one searching and asking engaged. Says Rashi, Chafi Roishim Shigavri Yad Aziponim. These people were very haughty. They were Mamzerim Sheim Ashirim Ve'elu Aniyim. And again, there's no one who's Darish Li Yisrael, Ben Mavakish Li Rachamim, no one who's asking for mercy. Al Milanu Hishayin. So who could we rely on? Al Avim Shabbat Shemayim, on Hashem. Rabbi Lezer Gadol Omer Miyom Shechar Beis HaMikdash. From that time, Sharu Hakimoya Lamahavi Kisafraya. Rashi says, Hischil HaChachamim, the Chachamim began, Safrayim Alamdi Tinaikis. They became, the great scholars became teachers. Malamdi Tinaikas, Shehem Katanim Min HaChachamim. They're less than that. The Safraya Kechaznaya. And the Sfar and these teachers became like Chazanim. The Chazanya Ka'ama Da'ara. And they became like Amir Aretz. The Amma Da'ara and the Amar Ha'aretz, as we continue to Mem Testament base, which is the last time we'll turn the Amud for this Masechta. Azla Vidaldala, they went further down. Vin Shoyal Vin Mavakesh. So Ami Yeshli Yishayin, who can rely on Al Avim Shabbat Shemayim. Be'ikvus Mashiach, the Ikvus the Mashiach, which is the time of moments before Mashiach comes. Chutzpah Yiske, there's going to be an increase in chutzpah in this world. V'yoiker Yamir, prices will go up. Hagefen titin piria v'hayayin b'yoiker. The grapes will give its fruit, the wine will be expensive. Umalchus tehafech leminus. And what will end up happening is Malchus, the kings and the leaders, will be turned to total minus, which is totally against Torah. Then tochachas, there's no rebuke, says Rashi. Ein locha adam sheyochel heichiach sheklum nechsholem b'chatois. Everyone's going to be sitting, so there's not going to be anyone to even rebuke. Beis vad yelaznus, the Beis vad, where we gather to learn Torah and for Beis Din, it became a place for harlotry. V'hagolil yecharav, Golil will be destroyed. V'hagvalon, and its borders. Yishayim v'anshe hagvul yisay v'venhu mi'ir le'ir v'lo yechunenu. They're going to go around from city to city, and there won't be any grace. Says Rashi, Beis Havad shel chachamim yu leveis nus shekol chacham. There won't be any more chachma. Ve'en loy Torah ve'yehei charev me'en ish ubali zima misguidedim sham memnei shechutz le'ir hayu batim midrash sholhem. So it's going to be a terrible situation. V'chachma soifrim tisrach, and the knowledge of the scholars will be soured. V'yirei chet yimasu, those who fear sin will be melted. V'emes tehei nederas, and truth is going to be turned around. Norim pnei zakenim yalbinu, the young are going to embarrass the old. Zakenim yamdu mimnei katanim, the old are going to have to stand up in front of the young. Bein menavil av, a child will disgrace his father. Bas kama be'ima kal b'chamaisa, so daughters are going to show lack of respect to their mothers and their daughter-in-laws the like. Oy ve'ish anshi beisai, woe, the enemies of a person will be anshi beisa, the people in your house. Pnei hador kipnei kelev, the face of a dog of the generation will be like that of a dog. Haben eno misbayish me'aviv, father won't be embarrassed by the father. Ve'alma yesh lonu lihishayin al avim shabbat shemayim. So people say, what does it mean, this idea of a dog? This generation is going to be like the face of a dog. So it's very interesting that if you see a person walking a dog, so if you would come from a different planet, if you've never seen a dog before, you see that the dog is in the front. So you would think that the dog is the leader, because dog is in front of the owner. And the owner's secondary because they're behind them. So the dog is leading. But of course, the master has a leash. So if the master wants the dog to go in a certain direction, all he does is pull in a certain direction, and all of a sudden the dog goes this way. So there's an appearance that the dog is in charge, but the dog's not in charge. And that's the same thing with leadership in the time of Ikvus de Mashiach. In the moments before Mashiach, we're going to have leaders that on the surface they're standing up and they give the appearance that they're leaders, but the truth is they're not. Okay. Amarav lo shanu elashel melech v'gafras. When it came to, says Rashi, Inyan Atara, this hat, crown, oyisin me'evan shel melech, which is made out of some sort of salt. Shutzol ke'evan was like stone. So that's the time it's not allowed, over gafras, and together with sulfur. It says Rashi, v'sevenus come in siyurin begafras kashem shoisin beklei v'kesev v'karin. This is how they would make this, with salt and sulfur. Avashal hadas v'shal vered mutter. However, if you would use some type of atara, which is made out of myrtle or roses, that's allowed. Shmuel Eimer avshal hadas v'shal vered aser. That's also not allowed. However, shal kanim v'shal chelos mutter. However, if it's made out of just these reeds, or as Rashi says, something which grows by the water, is allowed. Levi avshal kanim v'shal chelos aser. The chein tana levi masnisa avshal kanim v'shal chelos aser. Some say everything is aser. Vial ha'irus. So what is that? So my irus. So Rabbi Lezer tavla dechad puma. It's some type of bell with one sound that's in it. Says Rashi, zug shel inbul, a bell with a clapper, echad, shemekashkeshin by lashir bebeis hamishtais. As we said before, we're not supposed to be singing in these taverns, so also this bell with a single clapper was not allowed. Rabbi Huna avad le Lebre made for his son tanbura, this musical instrument. That's what it's called. Asa avuha, the father came tavre, and he broke it. Armalei mechalef betavo dechad puma. He said it should be changed to a bell again with one clapper. Says Rashi, zug shel inbol she'oisim bebeis hamishtais. It sounds a lot like it. In other words, even though he made an instrument which is really loud, but the problem is people will think it's the same thing. Zil avidle apuma de chatzpa or apuma de kipiza. To make it look different so that no one will mistake it with the bell, which is aser. So he's basically telling him you have to make it a little bit different. Okay. But pulmis shaltitos gozra al taras kalois v'chulu. So my taras kalois. What is this that the women wore? So Amarab Barachana Amrab Yochanan Ir Shel Zahav. Their famous Ir Shel Zahav, which Rabbi Akiva gave for his wife, that cannot be worn anymore. Tanami Hachi Ezu Ataras Kalois Ir Shel Zahav. Although Oisa Kipa Shel Melos. She could have some type of a hat, a kova, which is made out of a wool white hat. Says Rashi, Koiva shel tsemer lavan. Okay. Tana, and furthermore we'll learn, Af al chupas chasanim gazru. Also they made exer against chupas chasanim, this chuppah for men. So my chupas chasanim, zahiris hamuzahavois, which is this type of chuppah with golden plates. Says Rashi, talis savua. It was dyed, shani, uvo kivuin tasizav, and had plates of gold. An shemamidanoisa kimin kippah. Tanami hachi elohin chupas chasanim zahiris hamuzahavois, again with gold plates. Avo oise papyrus v'toilaba komash yirtza. But you can use papyrus. Rashi says kimin kippah shel magali eights, some type of like wood, almost sounds like papyrus. Okay, and then that's allowed. You can't teach your kids Greek. So Tanabanan, when the Chashmonoim were engaged in battle, says Rashi, that Shnei Achin, there were two brothers, Shahimis Kaitatin al Malucha, Horkanus V'aris Toibus. So these two people were fighting. Hayu Horkanus Mibachutz. So Horkanus was the outside, and he was surrounding Yerushalayim, and he had the Roman army there. Va'aris Tobus Mibifnim. So he was on the inside. They used to lower down a basket filled with money, and then they would bring the carbon tamid. They would basically buy it. It says Rashi, mitrumas halishka latamidin. We didn't want to bring the carbon tamid, so this was the arrangement, because we couldn't go out of the city, and we didn't want them in the city. Then they'd kill us. So therefore, we used to bring money down in a basket, and they would bring us animals. There was one person, a zaken echad, who was inside, that he knew chachmas divanas. He spoke in chachmas divanas. As long as the Jewish people are doing the avodah in the Beis Hamikdash, you have no control over them. So we did that. We lowered money, but instead of a hilahem chazir, a pig was brought up, which obviously is not a good carbon. Once it got half the way up the wall, Notzi Parnov, it stuck its nails into the wall. Nizdazda Eretz Yisrael Arba Meos Parsa, that all of a sudden Eretz Yisrael like shook 400 parsa. Curses anyone who raises pigs. Because this guy, because he spoke in chachmas divanas, he was able to tell them this trick not to give any more karbanos. And on that year, they learned the story of Oimer mi Gagos Serifim, and they brought the Oimer from Gagos Serifim, which was far away. Ushtei halechem mebikas ein soicher. And Rashi says, Migagos Serifim mishar hashanim mitzvos ha'oimer havi min hakarav Yerushalayim. Better that you should bring it very close from Yerushalayim. However, they had no choice, so they ended up bringing it from far away. Ein v'yomer Rabbi be'eretz Yisrael loshen sursi. What Rashi says, Karavhu loshen arami. It sounds like almost Aramaic. Lama el I loshen hakodesh I loshen yavanas. She says, why are you speaking in sursi? Speak either in loshen hakodesh or loshen yavanas. So we see you can't speak in loshen yavanas. Yom Rabbi Yosef bebavel loshen arami lama. Why are you speaking arami? El o loshen hakodesh o loshen parsi loshen. So how do we answer this? The answer is loshen yavanas l'chod v'chachmas yavanas l'chod. To speak the language, that's okay. That's not a big deal. However, the chachmas yavanas, that we don't want anymore. Chachmas yavanas means asir. Is it really true? It's also Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel. He said, "Mishem Mishem Gemul Madachsid." The pasuk says, "Eini oyla lenafshi." That'll be Rashi's mineveles es enoi. That it's like repulsive. Mikol b'nois iri, from all the daughters of my city. What is that referring to? Elf yuladim hayu bebeis abba. There was 1,000 children from my father's house. Chamish meos lamdu Torah. 500 learned Torah. Chamish meos lamdu chachmas yavanas. 500 learned chachmas yavanas. Lo nishtayr mehen el ani kan uben achi abba baiso. And it's only basically us remaining. But the point is that they did teach chachmas yavanas. So Shani shel beis Rabbi Gamliel was allowed to learn chachmas yavanas to kroivul malchus havi, since he was close to the malchus. So therefore, it was an exception to Sanya. Masaper koimi, you could cut your hair in a certain way, which is in your front, and you leave like a ponytail in the back. Normally, harzeh madarchei amoyri. This is improper, which is what the people who used to worship Avodah Zarah did. Of Tolois ben Ruvain hetiru wasaper kumi. However, he was allowed to get that haircut. Shukarva malchus So there are certain things that we normally don't allow, but because we have this close relationship with Malchus, so therefore we make certain exceptions. But so he said maybe they should not go out with it, with this chariot. But the other one says you could. My time misham siniusa, because of sneus. So maybe that's the reason why we actually are going to allow them to go out, because it shows modesty. Mishemes Rabbi Yochanan batul hachachma tanoban. Mishemes Rabbi Lezer nigna sefer Torah. The sefer Torah was like hidden or closed. Says Rashi Shayabal halachis. Mepi Shmuel Harbi was seduris bepiv kil kosab sefer. It was like it was actually everything written in the sefer. Says the Gemara in Sanhedrin. Rashi quotes Harbi Torah lamanatim Rabbi Sai v'lo'oid el shani shayna shosh olafim halachis. I went 300 halachos regarding Tintias Kishuan about cucumbers, Shoshmis Beheres Asa. So there was a great level of knowledge in the time of Rabbi Lezer. Mishemes Rabbi Yeshua Batal Eitza. Eitza was removed from Umach Shava. What does that mean? Shoy Zahir Bidrashais, Ubaki Bihalachais. He was knowledgeable in all these things. Okay. Mishemes Rabbi Kiva Batal Zoroya Tayra. So when he died, the Zeroya Torah ended. Oimik Svara, the depth of logic. The Lismach Tami Torah Shemal Peh, Al Midrashay Mikrais, the Oisias Yaserim, as we said, the extra words, extra letters. Vinis Tamamu Mayanos HaChachma. And the Mayanos of Chachma, the wells and streams of Torah, was closed up. Mishemes Rabbi Lezer ben Azariah Batul Ataros Chachma. The level of wisdom was removed. He was also exceedingly wealthy. As Rashi quotes the Gemara in Shabbos, Torayasar Alfi Egle Havi Maser Medrau. 12,000 calves would be his meiser from his flock every single year. She'ateres Chachamim Ashra, because the ateres of Chachma is their wealth. Mishmeis Rabbi Chanina ben Daisa Batul Anshi Maisa, because he had a lot of miracles. Mishmeis Abba Yosi ben Katointa Batul Chasidim. The Chasidim ended. V'lomnik Shmo Abba. So why was he called by this? So Abba Yosi ben Katointa. The reason why he was called that, Shahayim Mikatni Chasidim, because he was like the lowest of the Chasidim. Meshemes ben Azai Batul Hashakdonin, those who were diligently learning Torah. Meshemes ben Azai Batul Hadarshanim, because of his ability to darshan, as we said already in the Mishnah. Mishemesh ben Gamliel, Ola Gavoi Varavut Saros. When Shmuel died, locusts and tsar and anguish and pain befell the world. Mishemesh Rabbi Huchpul Saros. When he died, it was doubled. Mishemesh Rabbi Batul Anava Viraschat. Unfortunately, in the time after Rabbi, there was no more people who were humble. There was no more people that feared sin. Don't mention humility is gone, because the ikana and me, I'm humble. Of course, it's an interesting understanding. What is a nivus? It doesn't represent someone who's low. You have to know who yourself as a person. You can still be an ana. Don't learn fearing sin is gone, because I fear sin. Okay. Adkan. Tomorrow we continue with the new Masechta, Masechtas Gittin. Adkan.